Hello everybody, Mannix here. Got a little knife review for you right here, right now. But first, feel free to subscribe, hit that little bell notification if you do not want to miss weekly knife and gun videos. This one's on an old friend of mine. It's a revisit, the Kershaw OD-2. They made two variants of this knife. There was this one, the OD-2, as well as the OD-1. The OD-1 was bigger, and it was a frame lock instead of the smaller liner lock you're looking at right here. But what these two knives had in common was this unique overdrive mechanism. Looks like a flipper, but it is in fact not a flipper at all. It's actually a separate mechanism that moves the blade. You'll notice you don't see any flipper attached to the blade itself. It's completely independent. Rotates 90 degrees to rotate the blade out 180 degrees. Very ingenious, very cool. Not really sure why they never brought this back or used it on any other knives. As far as I know, it was just this and the OD-1 that used this mechanism. I've never seen anything quite like it anywhere else. Maybe there's some custom knife out there that wears something like this, but as far as production knives go, I have never seen anything like this. It's very, very fascinating. By the way, this guy is discontinued. I got this knife maybe 11 years ago or something. Still have it. Still love it. The blade length is a measly 2.25 inches. The thickness 0.11 inches. Handle length 3.125 inches. But it's saying the overall length is 5.34. Whatever. Spear point style blade. Some may call it a drop point. I call that a spear point. Whatever. GFN handle scales. We got some stainless steel liners in here. Tip up carry only. That pocket clip is swappable to the left side. It is a liner lock. 8CR13 MOV blade steel, bead blasted finish, 1.4 ounces. Not sure what these suckers used to retail as, but they went for about 20 bucks or less, 17, sometimes $15 if you shopped around. Very, very affordable knife at the time anyway. Extremely effective for the money. Just being a great little lightweight EDC blade. 1.45 ounces. Okay, so their website was just 0.05 ounces off in comparison to my scale anyway, but very lightweight, very small, very fast, very simple. I love the texturing on the GFN handle scales right here. It's like a faux G10. You ever had the micro recon ones from Cold Steel? It feels almost exactly like that. It's a texture attempting to mimic a G10-like texture, but it's not G10. You can see from the sides, it's not layered up. It doesn't have that telltale pattern you'd see on G10 or micarta or something. Just GFN. But I love this texture. It's probably my favorite texture when it comes to any knife handle scale. It's not super abrasive. It's not like a really rough sandpaper or anything like that, but it's not slick either. It's right in that sweet spot. Love it. Absolutely love that texture. It's perfect, I think. Very smooth on the pocket. Extracts out of your pocket very easily. Pocket clip tension is perfect, by the way. It's a perfect pocket clip. I really like it. It's very simple, bead blasted. It's not loop over. You're going to have a little bit showing right there, but I mean, it's very small to begin with. I kind of want a little something to grip onto. Little GFN backspacer right there too. Very simple, very nice, pleasant fit and finish. Excellent lockup for what it is. There's a little bit of side to side in there, but not a big deal. No up and down. Had this guy for over a decade. It's still locking up just fine. And because it's so small, I'd imagine it's not going to wear as much as a bigger knife would with a larger liner or frame lock. So yeah, just that goes to show you. I don't know what the life bar was out of the liner lock when I first got this sucker, but looks like not a whole lot has probably changed. No skeletonization in there. Again, still very light, about 1.5 ounces. Now, this mechanism right here, if you were to open this guy up, it's basically just a metal mechanical arm that has a separate pin inside of it that is connected to a pinhole in the tang of the blade. That's basically all it is. Not exactly rocket science. It's very, very simple. You can see how it moves. Not in complete unison, though. Again, we get a 90-degree rotation on the lever, which brings the blade out a 180-degree rotation. It's very ingenious, and it's very simple, it's very cool. I like the texturing on it up here. It's perfect. Absolutely love this mechanism. Now, what I do like about this guy, especially back in the day when this thing came out, flipper knives were around, but a lot of companies were still struggling to get them right in that sweet spot of being able to deploy them. A lot of flippers out there were not very successfully done. Even the Kershaw Skyline, very popular knife, but that one you had to give it a good wrist flick because the detent and the timing of it, the amount of pressure you had to build up. The flipper knives just were not really there yet at the time, talking about a decade ago. These days, we got ball bearings, and a lot of companies have flat out just nailed the whole tension game when it comes to flipper knives. Everything opens up flawlessly these days. If your knife cannot open up easily without a wrist flick, I would call that a subpar deployment as far as today's technology is concerned. But back in the day, the advantage to this was that you needed no wrist flick. That's how I see it anyway. I did not have to flick this guy open. If this had a flipper, maybe it would not flick out if you just moved your index finger. You'd probably have to give it a little bit of a wrist flick. But with this mechanical arm, you can actually kind of open it slowly almost. I mean, you got to tap it at the very end to get it to lock properly, but I don't know, it's kind of interesting. I can use my index finger to conventionally open up the knife. It's like a flipper folder, but it's not really a flipper. It's actually very ingenious. It's very cool. Not sure why they stopped using these things. What I will say, though, it does rattle a little bit. Little bit. You can hear it every time I move the knife around a little bit. You hear just a little something clicking, clacking in there because it's kind of loosely fit. Maybe if you put some petroleum in there or something, you'd get it to sit in place a little bit better, but now you got petroleum in there, and that might become a mess later. Not really sure. May not last forever. You may have to keep reapplying it. That would just kind of be a pain in the ass after a while. So it is what it is. No jimping anywhere. Not a big deal, though. I do like how it goes completely flush underneath the handle. Isn't that elegant? Love that. Very fast, very simple. Works every time. Locks open every time. Carries very well. Ambidextrous, unless you count liner locks as not ambidextrous. Oh well. Love the texture on here. I love the way it looks. It's so simple, so friendly. I love the spear point. Very, very acute tip on here. Very good for piercing. ATR13 MOV. You know, it's the same stuff you see on the Spyderco Tenacious line. Lots and lots of knives use this blade still. And even to this day, they still do. It blows my mind. We're still using this ATR13 MOV. Soft, but gets hella sharp very easily. Not the best rust resistance. And unfortunately, Kershaw's got their notorious bead blasted finish on this guy with the ATR13 MOV. The combination of the two is going to be a pretty surface rust ready steel, which I'm not wild about, but you can't really see any obvious issues on this guy. Even after all this time. That's pretty much it. It's basically just an excellent EDC folder. It's one of my favorite knives ever. It's so affordable, so effective, and so simple. So lightweight, you'll forget it's on you. It's not super slim or anything. I mean, it's slim enough, but you have a good chunk to hold on to here. It's not uncomfortable, I would say. I love the texturing on it. It just goes on and on and on. It's a perfect EDC folder. It's great. I'm just surprised we haven't seen anything quite like this in all this time. They haven't brought anything else quite like this back. Tactical? No, it's just a little bit too small. We got some texturing on here, but it's just not large enough. I mean, don't get me wrong, even a 2-inch blade can cause a lot of damage if you know what you're doing. But when you start getting into heavy clothing, maybe on your attacker, not having a whole lot of leverage to work with, you're under a stressful situation, what if the knife just flies out of your hands with the sweaty palm and all that adrenaline going? I wouldn't bother. I wouldn't say it's a tactical blade, but I guess if you know what you're doing, I suppose it will work, but that's not its calling. It's just an excellent featherweight, efficient EDC knife. I really, really like this thing, and I love how it was so affordable too. If you find these guys, I mean, you might get them used for like 35 bucks or something. I'm completely just guessing. I didn't even check the prices in a while, but they're only going to go up in price as time goes on. That's just how entropy goes. Anyway, that is it. That is the Kershaw OD-2. What do you think of this knife? Have you ever had this one before? Do you have one now? Do you think it's a great EDC knife? Do you actually think it could work for tactical use? Let me know in the comments down below. It's always interesting to hear what you guys have to say, and I always learn something from you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Mannix out.